The red centre of Australia is a world where summer daytime temperatures can exceed 40 degrees centigrade, where there is no escape from the wind, dust and the flies, where there is sparse vegetation and almost nothing to drink. These are the conditions confronting the Desert Brumby, one of the toughest feral horses anywhere on the planet. To live here in the Central Australian desert is as hard as it gets. It challenges the evolutionary strategies that created the genus Equus after the Pleistocene ice ages, when grasslands first appeared on planet Earth 25 million years ago. Large marsupials like the red kangaroo, unique to Australia, have developed behavioural and physiological strategies to cope with the limited energy resources and the fierce heat of the Central Australian summer. However, this semi-arid environment, paradoxically, provides an introduced feral animal, Equus caballus, the horse, with all of its survival needs. It's as if the evolution of the horse that occurred on the steppes of Europe and on the prairie grasslands of North America has been recapitulated here in Central Australia. The Desert Brumby of Central Australia shows us the original horse in its natural grassland environment, roaming in free bands, seeking out sometimes remote food resources, but returning to the one essential, non-negotiable staple in its natural history: water. If there is no water to drink, there can be no horses. Hardy hooves and long athletic legs enable horses to reach habitat far from water, devouring tough, unpromising-looking grass fibre as they go. They climb ridges and graze on hilltops, exploiting every stem of forage they can find.
I've climbed to the top of the escarpment that borders the southern edge of the Peterman Valley. And even here on the top, there is abundant grass at the moment. Oat grass. Green, rich in nutrition, loaded with seed. The horses won't come up here to seek out this grass until everything on the valley floor has been exhausted. And then somehow they will scale these difficult cliffs like I've just done and seek out this oat grass. It'll be dry and desiccated then, but still sufficient to maintain the brumbies through the hard times.
They chew the grass to pulp, with rows of high-crowned, enamel-coated cheek teeth housed in a large, elongated head. Horse teeth are ever erupting to compensate for the tooth that is continually worn away by chewing grass covered in grit and sand. The energy of the sun, harnessed by photosynthesis and stored as cellulose, sugar and starch by the grass, is released to the horse by digestion in its foregut and fermentation in its large, specialised hindgut. It can only do this if it has water to drink at frequent intervals. This sets up a survival dilemma for the Desert Brumby. Horses must consume grass wherever they can find it, and inevitably the grass closest to the watering points is soon depleted. Committed to finding sufficient energy to maintain life, the horses have to trek further and further from water to find edible grass. Every week without rain extends the distance to pasture and brings the Brumby bands closer to starvation.
This is the Central Australian desert, and getting a drink of water is absolutely essential for survival. the wild horses, the brumbies that survive here, their nearest water is Farrer Springs, 7 kilometres in that direction. And their nearest food is a further 7 kilometres in that direction to those rolling red sandhills in the distance where there is some pasture. So this journey of 14 kilometres has to be made 2 or 3 times a week just for survival. But survive they do. On the edge of survival, certainly, but they breed every year, and the mares are in poor condition but carrying foals or suckling foals, and the stallions are in better condition. But the key to the survival of these horses in this environment is their feet, the desert foot. The hooves of these horses are tough and hard and resilient. It's pretty impressive.
In the central desert, there are long dry periods between rain events, and arduous round trips have to be undertaken to reach pasture and return to water. Desert brumbies are known to make round trips between food and water of 110 kilometres. Away from water for 7 days, they only drank twice. This is particularly tough on mares and foals. The foal, sometimes only hours old, still has to make the same journey as its mother. When we first encountered the Desert Brumby in 2009, it was a dry year. The rainfall for the entire year was only 117 millimetres. Every day, bands from all points of the compass were drawn to the few remaining springs and water holes to quench their thirst. The dry country in the vicinity of the water was crisscrossed with trails or pads leading to the water. Many horses used the pads. After travelling long distances, the bands begin to trot or even canter, eager to reach the water. Lowering their heads as soon as they enter the water, they drink non-stop for 6 to 7 minutes, filling their stomachs to capacity. Individuals have their own style of drinking. Some sweep from left to right in an arc, another will twitch ears with each swallow, others will wrinkle up their nose. They lick their lips as they draw close. After drinking his fill, this stallion cools his body with a roll in the water. Surely a rare luxury for a horse in a desert environment. A dust bath and a good roll transforms the wet stallion from a shiny black to a dull desert red. Every few years, good times do come to Central Australia, and 2010 was exceptionally wet, with 810 millimetres of rain, almost 8 times as much as in 2009. Summer storms drenched the country, filling waterholes, creeks and clay pans. Grass seeds lying dormant for years absorb the moisture and germinate rapidly, growing leaves and shoots that soon bear rich, nutritious, oat-like seed heads. No longer in use, the pads and tracks become garden beds filled with grass and wildflowers. After the rain, the land is transformed and wildflowers colour the once drab landscape. With grass now abundant, flocks of budgerigars and zebra finches come from far and wide to enjoy the rich bonanza of fresh grass seed. They also come to the water to drink, along with crested pigeons and major Mitchell cockatoos.
A year ago I stood on this very rock at what we call the corner. Petermann Valley stretches to the west, and to the south the rolling sandhills where the horses, the brumbies, were finding some pasture. The brumbies had to water at Farrar Springs, 7 kilometres to my left, and walk over this dry arid plain as it was then to find some food in those sandhills. But now the country's been transformed. It's a sea of green. There's been unusual winter rains and frequent summer storms, and there are no horses. The horses have dispersed. They're hundreds of kilometres to the south, and they've disappeared up the Petermann Valley. I haven't seen a horse in the week that I've been here. And there's grass everywhere and water for the horses to drink. And they're putting on body condition, and they will need to, because one thing is for certain: this is the arid red centre of Australia. The hard times will return.